Barcode systems in our application are used to simplify the most common evidence management procedures, and that is to book evidence, check it in, check it out, inventory, dispose, create reports, audits, and to track the movement of physical objects. Our barcodes can serve 4 functions: to identify locations, identify cases, to identify specific items, and to perform commands. The first thing to do, and this video is actually available if you ever want to let someone see it or to present it to someone. But the steps to install the system are to purchase it, install, train on the VeriPic system. This graphic represents the typically purchased pieces of the corded and cordless scanners, the barcode printer, the software, and the optional signature pad. Step 2 is to create a unique identifying number for every location that something can be, including the district attorney's office. You can take this as far as you want. On an integrated system like Bear, they could theoretically track things throughout the system into different buildings and all that because they're all on one unified system. Step 3 is to use the system to book, check in, and process all the new evidence. And then for existing locations, the final step would be to go back and systematically, gradually add all the existing evidence until they have a comprehensive audit of every item in their storage facility. We talk about the basic system that allows you to book, check in, check out, dispose, report, audit, and track. It provides for a logical workflow. The system can be largely barcode driven, which means that you can use it to perform commands to eliminate keystrokes. The system is flexible, customizable in many ways. It does provide alerts, annotative notes, and one of the real unique things about our system is that it uses a Mylar label. These Mylar labels are virtually indestructible aside from fire. You could even boil them and the information will remain intact. That's very important for police applications. Most systems out there will use either a Avery-style printed label, which is typically used for address labels and that sort of thing, or worse still, thermal labels, which a lot of these property rooms are not necessarily temperature regulated. And in August, it is pretty darn hot in there. If they were using thermal labels, all of them would simply turn black. Our labels are virtually indestructible. Barcode system is one of our suite of products, and the cool thing is that these things do interconnect, and I'll show you this in real time. But as you've seen in the digital evidence demo, is that if you have a piece of physical evidence and you're using the combination of our barcode and digital evidence system, you can use the two things in conjunction with one another. So say you have a piece of physical evidence and you want to look at the photos of it, well, you can simply scan the barcode of that item and press one button. It allows you to launch the other application, and it will take the information of that item and relate it to the case and take you seamlessly right to those photos. Or, of course, the other way around, if you're in Digital Evidence Manager and you're looking at a photo of a physical item and you'd like to know where that thing is in storage, you can press one button. It'll access the other application and tell you what shelf and rack that's located on. That is a huge time saver for departments and really one of the critical differences between our system and a lot of other systems out there. System does provide efficient evidence management, security and audit trails. Every user action is identified, and again, as always, the timestamps are referenced back to our authentic tamper-proof clock. You do have complete control over user access privileges controlled by both users and groups, and our systems will interconnect and theoretically can connect to other RMS, CADs, and LIMS systems through the API kit. In summary, we provide efficient evidence management, a simple barcode, common sense driven application for physical evidence management. And the combination provides of both Digital Evidence Manager and Barcode system provides efficient management of both digital and physical evidence, network connective and scalable with unsurpassed security and audit trails, authentic tamper-proof clock, and security levels for access rights. There are setups that you need to double check that is correct, and that will be these pages here in the center of the setup section. What this does is this allows you to configure your system to work the way you want it to work, just like in Digital Evidence Manager where you can pretty much control how everything works. The first step that someone will do is to actually create unique identifiers for every location that they have. And this could include their booking lockers, any locations at the crime lab, disposal bin, all the shelves and racks in the evidence room, lockers, squad room, pretty much anything that you want to track, including locations that are external, if, like, for example, if you're sending stuff over to the district attorney's office and that you want to automate that system, you can simply assign a number to it and then have that go over. All right, now when you first turn on the system, the first thing that pops up is this alert window. And what this is allows you to set alerts for any items that you have in storage. So if something needs to be disposed or returned or anything like that, you can set a timer. So when the operator comes and logs on that day, the alerts are the first thing to pop up, and they can simply read whatever needs to be done in a time-critical way. This is very much like in Digital Evidence Manager where you have an internal messaging system, which the Barcode system also has, which allows you to send messages in an email format to other users of the system. If the logged-in operator does have a message, that system or that message window will pop up. So both of those things are present in the Barcode system and just the messaging system so far in Digital Evidence Manager. I suspect that with the auto-deletion of body-worn camera video that alerts might become present also in Digital Evidence Manager at some point. All right, all that being said, here we go. So you might hear a beep in the background, and that is from me actually scanning these barcodes, and you will see how the system responds when I do that. So once we've identified all our locations and printed barcodes for them, we will then start printing barcodes for everything. And that means that a case jacket would have a barcode, and the barcode would represent that case number. All the knives, guns, and clubs would all have barcodes to represent the specific numbers. So how do you use this thing? Well, you can use it in the traditional method. If you want to find something, of course, you can search through the traditional methods using the wild cards, ascending, descending order, case number, security type, and case type. You can also search by keyword searches. And in this case, if we had a robbery on Jason Street and do a search on that, you will see that it will take us right to that case. And these are the physical items that are inside the barcode system from that robbery. But more often than not, you're going to be using the actual barcodes to do these processes. So, and it's important to make sure that your cursor is in the white box because that's where that barcode is going to go. So I'm actually doing this now. If I were to scan the case jacket, you might have heard the beep. I just scan the barcode and it takes me right into that case. Or if I were to scan the barcode for the physical item itself, it would not only take me to the case, but you can see it is highlighted, and it takes me to the detail screen of the item itself. Now, this is a pretty rich screen, and there's a lot of stuff in here, not all of which I use on a regular basis, but some of the things here is that you can set alerts from this screen. You have the actual audit trail of the items itself. And again, you can export those in typical VeriPic fashion. You can put additional notations, the storage location, titles and notes. There's robbery on Jason Street. That's why this case was found, because that's where it's getting that information. You can assign ownership. You can assign security levels. And sub-items are like the bullets that go into the gun. But the real cool thing about this is that you can also embed photographs in here. So in this case, this is the photo of the gold ring, which happens to be the particular item in question here. And it is associated with some of the other things from this robbery. So this is a really great way to embed photographs inside the application so that you don't necessarily need to jump to Digital Evidence Manager just to simply look at a photo of an item. Now, the nice thing about this is that the way a lot of this evidence is handled is that things are bagged, they're put in boxes, and some things like guns are held very securely in cardboard boxes where they're wire tied off and secured, and then put in these boxes and then shelved. The nice thing about the photo is that if you just want a quick reference to what that item is and get a physical look at it, this is a real great way to do it almost instantaneously. All right, so that is finding an item, and that is finding a case. And the other thing that you can do, of course, with the barcode is to perform commands. Now, the way this is typically done is that they would have either a poster on the wall or maybe a laminated card or something on their desk that would have the most commonly used functions, and that would be to book, check in, check out, or inventory. In this instance, I am going to scan the barcode for checkout. So I do that, and then the system pops up and asks me, well, I know you want to check something out. What item do you want to check out? So I would then scan the barcode for that item, and it takes me to this gun here. Well, so what do I want to do with it? I'm going to send it over to the crime lab. I can put in a description if I want that this thing is going out for testing. I have locations in my crime lab, so if I have a specific place I'm sending that, I can identify that. I'm me, but I'm going to give this to Kelly Smith to take over there. And I can also set an alert. This thing has an automatic alert. You can set the alert date and what this is automatically, but I can pick any date that I want to. And what that means is that in the event that this thing, in this case, doesn't come back by July 22nd, when I open the application on July 22nd, that alert screen will pop up and advise me that that gun is still out and had not been checked back in. So this is a very handy tool. Now, the last thing, and I do not have one of these, but we have the signature pads. And these signature pads are very much like the ones at the drugstore when you check out or get your prescription. They will have you sign for it, and that will record an image of that signature that gets added to the audit trail. I think that that's a great tool to have the actual physical signatures of the people that are taking property out of the property room to record in your audit trail. So all that being done, I press finish, and you will notice that the gun is now checked out, and it is at the crime lab. All right, so the gun is gone. Now, two possible things can happen. Either that won't be brought back, and that alert would pop up, or it is brought back, and we're going to do the second scenario here. So the gun comes back from the crime lab. I need to check it back in, so I'm going to do the same thing backwards. I'm going to scan the command for check in. And as you would expect, it works just like the other one, where it knows that I need to check it in. So it's asking me, what are you going to check in? So I scan the barcode for the gun, and it comes back up. And now I just simply do the same thing backwards. In this case, I'm going to check it back in. It is going to default back to its original location. So it actually tells me where it goes. Now I can reassign this if I need to, but I'm just going to go with what it says. It knows I'm me, and I'm the one that's going to be checking it back in. And again, I can assign a new alert. Say that this is, I don't know, graffiti cans or something that I want to dispose of after a while. I can set that alert. And again, you have the option to sign it. I press finish, and you can see the item is checked back in. It's that simple to do check in and check out, and that is really 90% of what the evidence technicians have to deal with on a daily basis and why these systems are so advantageous. You can imagine if you were trying to do this on paper, and I assure you there are police departments in this country that are doing it this way, where they actually write down in a log everything that comes in and out, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. All right. As I mentioned earlier, when you buy your system, you get two kinds of scanners. You get a corded and a cordless scanner. The cordless scanner is really designed as a way to perform inventories. And what you do with that is, in any inventory scenario, you're going to scan the location of the items, and then you're going to scan all the physical items themselves. Since the cord's only about 8 feet long, that's not going to get you very far. But with the cordless scanner, it will actually remember all the information, and then when you bring that back and put that thing in the cradle, it will dump all that data out and give you your inventory. This is incredibly handy because your property rooms might not actually even be in the same place. They might be in other rooms and other buildings, so that is a really excellent way to be able to do your inventories. The other thing is that our system will allow you to do spot inventory. So rather than having to inventory the entire room, which a lot of systems require, you can actually just do a few shelves. Now I'm going to do one for you, and you'll see how this data comes into the system. But I would scan the location, then I would scan all the items on the shelf, then I would go over to my next shelf and repeat the process. Now here you're actually seeing all the information being provided to the system. When you do it with the cordless scanner, all of that stuff would appear when you dock that cradle back in and dump it. But if we input that, it will simply give me an item list for our locations. And here on the long gun rack, we have all of this stuff. And in the gun safe, we have this stuff. Now, there are also misplaced items, and these are the tabs here. And you can delineate missing or excess items. In this case, I'm missing a Bushmaster, and that isn't good. So I should go find that gun. And here I have a Smith & Wesson that is an excess item, meaning that it is not supposed to be there. It is supposed to be located somewhere else. So I could simply go to the detailed items of that particular item and find where it's supposed to be. This thing is really, really simple, but it is a very cool way to do it. All right. So that's inventory. As you're all familiar with the administrative program that runs in the background, I'm going to go ahead and log in here as the administrator. You may have noticed this one little drop down here as you've done your demos for Digital Evidence Manager, and the admin program allows you to control the access rights for our entire suite of products. And if you choose the Barcode system, it brings up this feature access rights checkbox. And what this is assigning the ability to perform any one of these tasks. Now, the way this correlates to the program is that depending on which buttons are checked will define which of these buttons are functional. If you only have the permissions to book evidence, which would be the function of most of the street officers that are collecting the knives, guns, and clubs, when they log in, the only button that would be active would be the book button. So here's how the basic scenario would work. The officer is out, they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with. At the end of their shift or at the end of the event, they're going to bring the property back to the property room, And that, if you'll remember the earlier picture in our PowerPoint presentation, let's see, the front end of that building, there are going to be some bags, and there are going to be some paperwork that needs to be filled out, and then there's going to be lockers that they actually put this stuff in. So by using the VeriPic system, all that they would do would be simply to click on the book button and then walk through the process here. And the process that they walk through is largely defined by the way you set up the system. So we would create a case number. We can set a security level. We can add a new case. And in this instant, I am going to have a firearm, and this happens to be a Browning shotgun, 12 gauge. And the notes are that it was used in the attempted robbery of the 7-Eleven on Elm Street. And the offense, of course, is, is armed robbery. Again, you can set the alerts, and you can accept signatures if you want to do that. Alerts are pretty handy, but in most instances, they use a thing called a pass-through locker, and these look a lot like the lockers we all had in high school, except that there's a door on both sides. And what that means is that you put the item in on one side and lock that thing, and it cannot be opened again from the outside. It has to be opened from the inside where the evidence technician has to make sure that that chain of custody is start to finish. So I will press finish, and it's going to ask me if I want to book additional items. Now, the nice thing about this feature is that it means I do not have to re-enter the case number or any of that other stuff. I can simply just go on and book the stuff that was stolen, the shells that were recovered, anything that goes along with this without having to do redundant data entry. In this instance, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to press Finish Booked Items.
Why was booked sub-items grayed out?
Because it wasn't checked in the setup screen.
Oh, okay. So you selected in setup. Okay.
Right. All right. Now, what I recommend is that once the booking is completed, that they print a paper receipt. And a paper receipt looks just like this. Now, what this thing is this contains and this is just on a regular piece of paper. It doesn't have to be a barcode because it's not being assigned, and that's kind of a waste of our labels. They can simply print a very inexpensive paper receipt that carries all this information. All right, so back to the scenario, just to refresh. We have gone through the process of booking the shotgun. We have printed our paper receipt, and we're going to take the gun and whatever else we're booking in there, put it in the locker, and we're going to put that paper receipt in there with it. All right, so I'm done as the officer. I can go home. Well, the next day when the evidence technician shows up, he will note that the pass-through locker is locked, so he knows there's something in it. So when he opens it, he will find the gun, and he will find that paper receipt. Well, now, and again, I'm really doing this. By scanning the barcode on that paper receipt, it will bring up the detail screen of the shotgun, which then allows me to go ahead and just simply assign it a location and check it in. I don't have to go through the process of re-entering all the case information, titles, and notations. All that was done by the arresting officer, and therefore I have a start-to-finish chain of custody. One of the other really nice things about this system is it allows you to embed forms, and that means that any documents that you use over and over again in a repeated way, and in this case I've created a Word doc, which is a property release form, I can simply double-click on that, and it will go and grab my Word document so that I can fill that out and send that letter off to the person here, in this case that they can come and get their property, and it means it just saves me yet another step. There's also a dispose, but you have several different options for disposal. You can permanently dispose of something. You can have it destroyed. You can have it returned. And that is all done through the disposal button. All right. Now, the last thing I want to show you here is the connection between this program and our other programs. So you'll note that when I started, I opened up Digital Evidence Manager, and this is exactly the way I do this. You'll notice the Digital Evidence Manager is just sitting there in the background. Well, now I'm going to go back to my page, and I'm going to scan the barcode of that gold ring. And that takes me to this case. Now, we already discussed having photos embedded inside the application itself, but there's another button here, and on the main page, when you're inside the case window, there is this View Photos button. And what the View Photos button does is it links it to the other application, Digital Evidence Manager. So if I click on View Photos, you will note that in the background here, Digital Evidence Manager launched and went right to that case. So I can select all these items here and fly through them, of course, at VeriPic speeds. There's the gold ring. And for the sake of our demonstration, I always go to this gun. Because the point here is that if you have physical evidence that needs to be joined up with digital evidence and you have to send this thing over to the courtroom, it's nice to be able to have the tool that allows you to check the serial number of the gun and just to be double sure that they match up. And yet another advantage that's a specific thing to digital or to VeriPic is that these programs do interconnect. If you have a really large installation of this, and think about Bexar County where they have our system in multiple locations, inside the fire marshal and the crime lab and the medical examiner and the sheriff's office. I don't know if they've implemented it this way, but theoretically, as the gun moves from the scene to the property room, to the crime lab, to the district attorneys, they could essentially tell you what shelf and rack it's located on, in which building, and have the ability to cross-reference it against the scene photos and the mug shots from any computer that they have access to log into. That becomes an incredibly powerful system with a great deal of synergy between the different locations, and since it's all in a unified database, it just makes it really super handy to deliver all that stuff to the district attorney with a complete and comprehensive chain of custody. Well, that's pretty much the end of school for the day, folks.